Don't need no canned cinnamon rolls now. It's absolutely amazing.
Hey friends, this is Angela from Art of Creation Homestead again. And you're in the kitchen with me again. We're doing another Homestead kitchen skills. We have tackled biscuits, so you no longer have to buy those canned biscuits. We have tackled pizza crust, so you no longer have to buy that canned pizza crust. We have tackled crescent rolls, so you no longer have to buy those canned crescent rolls. Today, we are tackling cinnamon rolls. And this isn't just any cinnamon roll recipe. Cinnamon rolls can take anywhere from 3 hours to overnight. It's a long process. So what I'm teaching you is an easy 1 hour cinnamon roll. Yes, I said a 1 hour cinnamon roll. This is super easy and super delicious. So let's get started. Some of the things you're gonna see me do here are going to seem so strange and so contrary to what other bread making things are. But trust me on this. It's going to be, you're going to have to do this stuff to take something that is a slow rise to a quick rise. First thing you need 1 1/4 cups of milk and 2 tablespoons of melted butter. Now the milk needs to be at between 110 and 115 degrees. I always err a little on the side of too warm. I always err a little on the side of toward 115. Mine is at about 112 right now because I keep my yeast frozen. And sometimes it can take a little extra heat to wake it up. You want to use instant yeast for this. I use SAF. I will leave a link in the description below to what I use. You want to use instant yeast, not just active dry yeast. You want to use instant yeast for this because you are making it into quick rise. Okay, we are going to add 2.5 teaspoons of instant yeast. And to this, we are also going to add 1 tablespoon of sugar to give this yeast something to eat. Now, you're going to let this sit for 5 minutes so that your yeast can bloom. Normally, you do not bloom instant yeast. You just throw it in because it's instant. It's going to rise. But with this, because you are making something that is slow rise into something that is quick rise, it's going to make the yeast work much better and much quicker if you bloom it first, even though it's instant. It's been 5 minutes, and it's hard to see just how foamy it is because of the butter on top, but it is super foamy. So now you want to measure out your dry ingredients. I have them on a piece of wax paper. We have 2 more additional tablespoons of sugar. We have 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and we have right here, we have 2 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour. We also have 3/4 of a cup of reserved flour. This is just in case flour, just in case you need it. So we'll set that aside and add it a little at a time as we need it. Now this here is another one of those ingredients that you're gonna think, what in the heck is she thinking? This is 2 teaspoons of baking powder. This is going to help the yeast rise faster. Because like I said, we are taking a slow rise thing and making it into a fast rise thing. So it needs all the help it can get. So we're gonna toss our baking powder, salt, and sugar in with our flour. And it's so much easier to do if you have that on wax paper. And also you can use your wax paper as a funnel to get your dry ingredients into the bowl. But before we do that, we are going to take 1 large egg that I have set out and let come to room temperature because you don't want it to be really cold because you don't want it to kill your yeast. You want to add that to your yeast and water mixture. You want to stir it in pretty quickly because remember, this is warm and you don't want to curdle your egg. So now we are going to start funneling in our flour and sugar and baking powder and salt mixture. And you're going to put all of it in at one time. Now, there we go. Now, you just want to stir that in. And like I've told you so many times with bread making, it all depends on the day and the condition in your house, all of those factors of how much flour you're going to need. You want to listen to your dough. It will talk to you. It will tell you what it needs. It will tell you if it needs more flour, because it will not clean the bowl. You will know that it's ready to go when it cleans the bowl. When you're working with it and it cleans the bowl. And see, as you can tell, it's not even close to cleaning the bowl right now. It's not even close. So we are going to add about 2 tablespoons of this flour. You don't want to add more than that because it may not need more than that. Listen to your dough. It will tell you what it needs. And as you can see, it's still very sticky. All of that flour, it's taking in all that flour and it's still very sticky. So you want to add about 2 more tablespoons. And at this point, I'm going to go in with my hands. You guys know when it comes to dough, if you've been watching for a while, you know that when it comes to working with dough, I love to use the tools that God put at the end of my wrist, because then I can feel what the dough feels like. And it's easier to tell what it's saying to you if you can feel it. And right now, as you can see, it's still pretty sticky. It's still pretty much sticky dough. But this flour is helping. But as you can see, it's nowhere near ready. So we're going to add about 2 more tablespoons. And you're going to watch the dough get stiffer. As you add 2 tablespoons at a time, you're going to watch it start to get stiffer. And also, you're going to watch it start to pull away from the sides of the bowl and start to clean the bowl. Now, this dough, like the crescent roll dough, it's going to be a little stickier because it does have eggs and butter in it to make it a rich dough. The egg and the butter is to make it a rich dough. You want that when you're doing something sweet. You want a nice rich dough. And this dough is super soft. And see, it's starting to clean the bowl, but see, it's still sticking to my fingers. You don't want it to stick to your fingers. It's going to be a little tacky because of the egg and everything. It's going to be a little tacky, but you don't want it sticking to your fingers. So we're going to add about 1 tablespoon. You don't want to add more than 1 this time, because you may not need to, and you might. We'll just have to wait and see what the dough says to us. Because as you can see, it's still pretty sticky. But it is starting to clean your bowl a little more. Now, like I said, it depends on your environment. And today we are in the middle of a winter storm. We are currently getting sleet and freezing rain. We are supposed to get a good bit of ice and some snow on top of it. So needless to say, there is moisture in the air. So today, it's probably going to take a little bit more flour than it may normally on a clear sunny day. So we're going to add another tablespoon. At this point, you want to start just adding it by the tablespoons instead of by the 2 tablespoons, because you may not need 2 tablespoons, and you don't want to overdo it with flour, because if you overdo it, then you'll end up with a tough dough, and you'll end up with tough cinnamon rolls. wants tough cinnamon rolls? I mean, come on. You want that beautiful, soft, delicious cinnamon roll. And as you can see, now it's starting to pull away. Still a little too sticky. See? It's still sticking to my fingers. See? Still has a tendency to stick to my fingers a little bit. So we're going to add about 1 more tablespoon. And this may be it. This may be all we need. We'll see. We'll let the dough talk and we'll see. And see, it's still a little sticky. So we're going to add another tablespoon. As you can see now, it's pulled away nicely. After that last tablespoon, it's pulled away nicely. Still a little tacky, but not leaving dough on my fingers when I press it. See? It's not leaving dough on my fingers, other than the dough that's already there. So now we're going to scatter a little bit of flour. Normally, I would tell you oil, but because this is cinnamon rolls, that kind of goes out the window with oil because this is a sweet dough. It's not going to be horribly sweet. The dough itself isn't, but it's a sweet dough, so that makes a difference. So we're going to throw some flour, and we're going to take our dough and put it out on our surface, and we're going to start to knead it. Remember what I told you. Flatten it out, fold over, push away, turn, fold over, push away. And you want to knead this until you get a nice smooth dough ball. If it starts to get a little tacky, that's fine. If it starts to stick to your counter and stick to your hands, then you want to add a little bit more flour to your surface. But if it's just a little tacky, it's fine. Because see, mine is starting to get a little tacky, and now it's starting to stick to the surface. So we'll add just a little bit more flour. And you want to knead it until it makes a nice smooth dough ball, which with this dough will only take about a couple of minutes because it's already a nice smooth dough anyways. So it's only going to take about a couple of minutes. It's been a couple of minutes, and as you can see, we have a beautiful smooth dough ball. It's so smooth and so beautiful. It's a little tacky to the skin, but it's not leaving behind dough when you touch it. It's not leaving behind dough. Now you want to put this back in your bowl. You don't need to put oil in there, because you're just leaving this for 10 minutes. You're just leaving it to rest for 10 minutes. That's all it needs, is just 10 minutes. So we're going to set this to the side, and then I'm going to show you how to make your filling. In this bowl, we have 3/4 of a cup of packed light brown sugar, a pinch of salt, 1/4 of a cup of granulated sugar, and a tablespoon of cinnamon. And you want to work that together, as I've been doing. As you can tell, I've been doing that. Because we had a little camera error, so you didn't get to see me mixing it together. So, I've got that all mixed together now. And your sugar, cinnamon always has some lumps in it, and you don't want to bite down on a lump of cinnamon. That is kind of unpleasant and would make the whole cinnamon roll experience not as pleasant. So this sugar works as an abrasive to break up any of those lumps in the cinnamon. See, now you have, looks like sand. So now to this, we are going to add 2 tablespoons of unsalted melted butter. Yes, I said melted butter. This makes it easier. Melted butter makes it so much easier than softened butter. Now to this, we are also going to add, this makes all the difference in the world. Don't skip this step. We are going to add 2 teaspoons. You guys know I never measure. Vanilla. We are adding 2 teaspoons of vanilla. And you want to stir that together until it makes essentially a wet, kind of a damp paste. It will, honestly, it will resemble wet sand. When you're done, it will resemble wet sand. And see, that's about where you're at right now. It doesn't take no time to get all of that incorporated in and to make a wet, sandy look. See? Now it looks like wet sand. If you see any lumps from the brown sugar, just kind of break them up. And see, it kind of looks like wet sand. When you press it together, it kind of holds together like sand would. Now you want to set that over to the side. Now it's been the 10 minutes, so we're going to get started on rolling out our dough. Now, you want to scatter some flour because you don't want them to stick. You don't want your dough to stick because that would be a disaster when you're trying to make cinnamon rolls. So you want a well-floured surface. Now look at that beautiful dough. It is so soft and so beautiful. Now, we are going to try to make it into a square, well, really a rectangle. You want to roll this out to roughly a 12 by 9 inch rectangle. Now, roughly, you don't have to measure. You do not have to measure. I'm not going to measure. Just know that it's roughly that. So you want to stretch your dough a little bit because you want to make sure that you get a nice rectangle out of this. I mean, it's not going to be perfect. These are homemade. It's not going to be perfect. But you want to try your best to get it into a rectangle, or as close to a rectangle as you can get it. And as you can see, it's got a lot of elasticity to it, so it's going to kind of spring back on you. Just keep working with it. Just keep working with it, and it will do what you want it to do. We have our rectangle now. You want to raise it up, make sure it's not sticking to your counter. And as you can see, it's not sticking. It's nice and loose, ready to go. Now we are going to take 2 more tablespoons of melted unsalted butter, and you're going to spread that around. You will want to use a pastry brush. This one is an OXO and it's amazing. It's silicone and it's amazing. Now, you want to brush it. You want to leave about a 1/2 inch border around the edge where there's not butter, because you want it to be able to seal up. So you want to leave about a 1/2 inch around the edge, which 1/2 inch isn't much. So you want to spread this around. You want to get a nice even layer of your butter, and it's starting to solidify. Your butter is actually starting to solidify, and that's fine. You want it to do that because it's starting to mix with the flour that's on the surface. So now look at that beautifulness. So now we're going to take our filling and we're going to pile it on there. Just use your hands. If you're the type of person who doesn't like to use your hands for things like this, you can just use a spoon. But you guys know me and my God-given tools. I love my God-given tools. So now you want to push this out. You want to leave about that 1/2 inch again, because you want some sealing room. And this already smells good because you can smell the yeast of the dough. You can smell the butteriness. You can smell the cinnamon, the sugar, the brown sugar. You guys know I'm a brown sugar freak. And that beautiful vanilla, that you do not want to skip that step. That vanilla makes all the difference in the world. So now we have this beautiful, and it's all patted out. Okay, you want to make sure you pat that end. Make sure it's nice and firmly patted in, because you don't want it falling out when you start to roll. So you want to make sure it's nicely firm and patted in. Now, you need to determine if you want fatter cinnamon rolls and fewer of them, or if you want more cinnamon rolls and smaller. Because if you want big fat cinnamon rolls and fewer of them, you will start rolling from the short side, because you will get more spirals. If you want more cinnamon rolls, then you will start rolling from the long side. I'm going to start from the long side. So you want to roll tight. You want to take that little lip that you created that has nothing on it. You want to fold it over. And you want to work like a typewriter. For those of you who don't know what a typewriter is, go look it up. Now you want to work rolling it over, and you want to be very tight. See how my fingers are working on it. You want to be very tight, making sure you are rolling a tight roll. You want a nice tight roll, because otherwise when they start baking, they're going to start unrolling. So you want to kind of pull and stretch a little bit as you go, because this dough is very, very strong. It can take it. And see, where you floured your surface nicely, you can do this now. You can manhandle the dough a little bit. Now, when you get to the ends, if it has started shrinking up, just give it a little pull and then pat your filling back down in. And see, now you've got this end. Now you want to pull the end up, and you want to pinch it to your existing dough. You want to pinch hard because you want to seal it. You want to seal it to your existing dough. And now, as you can see, we have a nice roll. Now you want to kind of push in the ends. You want to kind of tuck in those ends. You have a nice roll there. Isn't that gorgeous? It's an absolutely gorgeous cinnamon log. Now we are going to be baking these, and this is about a 9.5 inch glass pie plate. Now, if you don't have this, you can use a 9-inch round cake pan. That will take a little less time to bake. You will have to watch it a little more because the dark color can make it burn a little. So, or you can use a 9-inch square baking dish. So we're gonna start cutting our rolls now. You want to use a serrated knife, which means it has these ridges. I'm using, see, it has these ridges. I'm using a bread knife. You want to start in the middle. Now this isn't going to be perfect. You want to start a sawing motion. You'll get much cleaner cuts this way if you do a sawing motion. See, now you've got 2 halves. Now you want to cut each half in half with the same sawing motion. You'll get much cleaner cuts if you saw instead of press down. If you press down, you will get press down cuts. There we go. Now, you've got 4 pieces now. So now you want to cut each half, each of the quarters in half. And if you were getting these out of a can, these would even be bigger than the grands. So now you want to grease up your pan, and you want to take a roll from the middle, because you have 8 rolls here. Now you want to take a roll from the middle, and you want to put it in the middle of your pan. And you want to work outward around, taking each one of your rolls and putting it around. When you get to the end, put this side, the tucked in end, put it down so that the filling side is up. And now you just want to keep pushing them in until you get all 8 of your rolls into your pan. And see, isn't that beautiful? Isn't that absolutely gorgeous? Now, you are going to put them in a warm place. You're going to put a piece of plastic wrap or a kitchen towel over them. Put them in a warm, draft-free place for about 30 minutes to rise. And that's all the rise time you need. During this 30 minutes, you will want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. These beautiful things are out of their 30-minute rise. And as you can see, they have completely filled the pan. And they are ready to go into a 350 degree oven until they are nice and done and golden brown. Our cinnamon rolls are about 5 minutes away from being done. And when you get to that point, you want to make your glaze. You can make a cream cheese glaze, but when I am filming this, we are currently in a cream cheese shortage. So I am not going to tell you how to make something that you may not be able to find. So we are doing a vanilla buttercream type glaze for this. And in this bowl, we have 1.5 cups of powdered sugar. And to that, we are going to add 2 tablespoons of melted butter. You want to be sure and get all that butter out of there. And then we are going to add a teaspoon of vanilla. You guys know I never measure vanilla. And you want to stir that together. And you're going to watch it get looser, but this probably is not going to be loose enough. So we have some milk to help loosen that up. Okay, so I'm going to start with 1 tablespoon. And as you can see, it's still too thick, so I'm going to add another tablespoon. So this can take as much as anywhere from 1 to 3 tablespoons. So I'm going to add 1 more. This makes 3 tablespoons. And this should be all we'll need, really. But it all depends on you and how thick you want it. If you want it more like an icing or more like a glaze. If you want more like a runny glaze that you can just drizzle on top, then you may want to even add a 4th tablespoon. But this is more like a spreadable icing. And that's what I want for these. I more want a spreadable icing. And see, you've got a nice spreadable consistency at this point, because you're going to put this on warm cinnamon rolls, so it's going to start melting. These beauties are out of the oven and they smell amazing. It took about 35 to 40 minutes in my oven. It may take a little bit more, a little bit less. Also depends on the pan you're using. But you will know they're done when you stick your finger down in here or a knife, and you can feel that the dough is done and not doughy anymore. So now you want to take a knife, just a butter knife, and you want to go between each roll, and you want to loosen them up from each other. As it melts, it's going to drizzle down in between them. And that's what you want, because that's going to make for even better cinnamon rolls. And now they're all divided. Now we're going to take our icing. And like I told you, I want mine a nice spreadable consistency. If you want yours more of a drizzle, then you will want to add a little bit more milk. But to me, this texture right here is perfect. That consistency is absolutely perfect for spreading a nice layer on your cinnamon rolls. And you want to spread it on while they're nice and warm. That way it has a chance to melt down in. And you can use a knife or a spoon to spread it on there. Either one will work. I'll show you what they look like when they're done. Look at this deliciousness right here. Isn't that amazing? Now, they will come out very easily. See? Look at that. Look at that beautiful cinnamon roll. And it's just dripping the cinnamon sugar. Look at that. And Jason is standing by, just waiting to taste. And you can see the steam coming from it.
Okay, I'm going to have to cut into this. I'm not sure it's one you want to handle with your barehanded or not, so we're going to cut into that, but look in there. That's beautiful. I'm excited. I love me a good cinnamon roll. Alright. Mmm. Wow. Nope. Don't need no canned cinnamon rolls now. It's absolutely amazing. An amazing cinnamon roll. A wonderful, breakfast. Heck, it'd be a great dessert. I wouldn't care. You eat that whenever you feel like it. That's so delicious. And you'll never be upset with that one. I can promise you that. So here it is. Again, something else you can do without having to use a can stuff out of the store, So we do thank you guys so much for watching. Again, my name is Jason. Ms. Angela K. Our Christian Homestead. Love you guys and God bless you. Goodbye.